Doom, D-O-O-M, Side of the Moon. It is a supergroup that's put together with members of a band called The Sword. Oh, I can't remember the name of the other band, but there's a bunch of people from different bands, and they cover the entire album of Dark Side of the Moon in this crazy, like, down-tuned, awesome, heavy way. It is a super fun listen. I love it. I listen to it over and over again. It's one of my favorite albums.
And then, as soon as I finished it, I called you up and I said, we need to do Wish You Were Here, Pink Floyd. And you said, yeah, we'll do it. And then I found out that they also did some of Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. And I was like, well, forget it.
Yeah, they did Wish You Were Here. They did Have a Cigar, because people loved Doom Side of the Moon so much that they were like, we're going to do a few other songs for you now. So they threw down. The Sword is also an excellent band, by the way. They're great. They're out of Austin, Texas, and they're producing some really, really awesome music. But at any rate.
But anyway, I want to talk about you. I want to know, before a show, do you get any kind of nerves? Or what goes through your mind before you play a show?
I have been told by other people that I am the worst person in the world to be around before a show.
Do you yell at people? What do you do? What do you do?
I'm not a yeller. I probably just get snippy with people. Like I don't have a lot of patience for conversations.
Okay.
Like I normally do.
Note to self, before our show, April 26th, don't talk to you until after you've already played. Done.
And I never think I play well, and I never think I'm going to play well. And then, sometimes I'll watch videos of us playing, and I'll be like, oh, that was fine. That was better than I thought it was.
When I saw you at the dive bar, you were in your element. So you're up there and you're rocking, and I feel like you're having more fun than I'm having watching you. So what's going through your mind while you're up there?
Well, while I'm up there, it's easy, because then you have something you can put your energy into. I think the hardest part is when you're there and you're sort of waiting to get started, or you're setting up your kit and you're trying to make sure everybody else gets set up. One of the hardest things, I think, is getting the sound right, making sure that your levels are correct and that you're not too loud or you're too soft. I worry about that more than any human being worries about anything. I'm very, very concerned that by the time that sound gets out there into the crowd, that Jose is going to be too loud or not loud enough, that my clean guitar is not going to be loud enough, that my distorted guitar is going to be too loud, that Noah's bass is going to overpower us.
And we play venues where there is no sound guy, and friends don't come up to you and be like, hey, you're too loud. We just let it happen.
Yeah, and sometimes you'll suffer through a show and you'll be like, man, I really just wish they would just turn down the vocals like 2 notches. So it would be so much better. And we probably should say things like that to each other more often.
But you don't want to disturb the person playing, and it's really tough.
Well, listen, everybody out there in podcast land, I give you permission. If something is too loud or too soft in our show, if you can't hear the drums, or you can't hear the kick drum, or the bass is too loud, or the guitar is too soft, or the vocals are too loud or too soft, please feel free to come up to me and say, Jeremy Scott, X is going on. This is not loud.
Yeah, that's fair. It's same here. All right, and here's my last question I have for you, and then we're going to do some trivia. If you were offered an opportunity to go on tour for several months and open for a national act, would you do it? I mean, you already have your job, your day life, you have a relationship. You have to leave all of that to go on tour.
That's a tough one.
Right?
That is a tough one.
I mean, let me ask you this. 20 years ago, I asked that question. What do you say?
In 2 seconds, I would have done it. For sure.
20 years later.
Now the question is, would I do it? I probably would do it if the other 3 guys agreed to do it. I probably would do it. I think it would heavily depend on the amount of money, because I'd be giving up a tremendous amount of money to go on the road.
Yeah. I mean, you have to quit, do something about your day job, and you still have to pay the rent.
Yeah, and still got to pay the student loans.
Still have to pay the student loans. We played a show, and there's a band, younger kids that are on tour. They got themselves a van and a trailer, and they're going around the country playing music, and just like, that's got to be awesome. Going all these places, and even if you play a dive bar, it's like you're getting the experience, the rock and roll experience.
Well, yeah, and I would say I don't know how many younger bands have a chance to listen to the podcast, but I would say this: don't be afraid to to do something like that when you're young, because you can catch up. It's not that big a deal. You're not missing out in your early 20s by, making sure that you go straight to college and then straight to this afterwards. Take a gap year, go out, follow your dream. I think it's totally worth it. I wish I had done more. I wish I had moved out to L.A. right out of high school. I probably should have done that.
Yeah. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break, come back. I'm going to ask you some trivia.
Sounds good.
Hey, Scotty here. If you missed the sweet sound of Rico's voice, well, welcome back. We're going to do some trivia.
Traveling the world like a rock star.
Don't worry,
be
we'll be
tested.
back next episode.
I am ready to
now
be
back
tested.
to
I'm
the
not
show.
sure I'm going to be able to accurately answer your questions, but I'll take a shot.
Well, luckily they're multiple choice, so you got a 1 in 4 chance of getting it right. All right, number 1. Elijah Blue Allman, son of Cher and Greg Allman, is the singer and guitarist for the band Dead Z. He's also the kid rocking a guitar in Cher's music video, If I Could Turn Back Time. Looking back in time, which one of Cher's men was the one to give Elijah Blue Allman his first guitar? Was it A, Greg Allman from the Allman Brothers, B, Gene Simmons from Kiss, C, David Geffen from Geffen Records, or D, Michael Bolton of Michael Bolton?
So let me see if I understand the question. Cher actually dated each of those 4 guys?
Oh, yeah. And more.
Interesting. I mean, it's got to be his father, right? It's got to be Greg Allman.
It's the most logical.
That would be the most. I'm going to choose the most logical one, A, Greg Allman.
And the answer is B, Gene Simmons.
So there you go.
Yeah.
Shows how much I know.
Yep. So here's the interesting Dead Z fact. I was a huge fan of Dead Z.
Really?
Yep. Back when I was listening to Korn and Limp Bizkit and all those bands. And I don't remember how I got turned on to Dead Z, but I just remember that I loved the music. But here's the thing. They were playing one of the Ozfests, and I was in college at the time, and I had an exam. I had an exam the day of Ozfest, which wasn't a big deal because I could still see the later bands, but Dead Z was one of the first bands playing. So I go to my professor, and I said, can I take the test early? And she's like, why? Why would you want to take it early? And I said, I got to go see this concert my band's playing that I want to see. And she goes, you want me to do work quicker and make you take the test before? No, I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, well, I wasn't going to say after. She goes like, well, can you come the next day and take it in the exam room? I go, yeah. She goes, okay. So I was able to skip the test and go see the band and then go take the test the next day.
Nice.
That is an awesome professor.
That was a pretty great professor.
Yeah. All right. Number 2. Having a parent or parents as a musician doesn't automatically mean you'll be a successful musician. However, it can help get your foot in the door. Which of these musicians did not have help from a relative to help them? So, which one of these doesn't have a relative that got them into music?
Okay.
Is it A, Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins, B, Jacob Dylan from the Wallflowers, C, Dexter Holland from the Offspring, or D, Norah Jones of Norah Jones?
So 2 of those I know straight off have famous musicians. Obviously, Jacob Dylan is Bob Dylan's son.
That's right.
Okay. And Norah Jones is also related to somebody. I can't remember exactly who it is. Mm-hmm. So that leaves us with Billy Corgan and Dexter Holland.
Yes.
I believe Dexter Holland is related to somebody famous. So I'm going to go with A, Billy Corgan.
Actually, the answer is Dexter Holland.
So there you go.
Yeah, Billy Corgan, his dad, William Corgan, played blues rock guitar.
Interesting. But was he like a well-known guitar player?
He was well enough to kind of help get him going.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Dexter Holland had nobody, huh?
Yeah, Dexter Holland did it on his own. I started reading about Dexter Holland and like his story. They went to go see some punk band, and they couldn't get in. And like him and another guy were outside and got frustrated, and they kind of started talking, and that's how they ended up becoming band members.
That's how the Offspring got started?
Kind of, yeah.
He's got a great voice, Dexter Holland.
You know, people don't realize how high his voice can hit. And if you try to sing along, there's no way. I mean, it's incredible.
Well, some people just have really, the other thing about voices is I think a voice can really be two things. You have to have a voice. The singer has to have some control.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got to be able to sing their notes and sort of sing in tune and on time. And you can be better or worse in that area. But the one thing that you can't get by without is it has to be somewhat distinctive.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, all of your friends who were saying Red Hot Chili Peppers, sounds like nails on a chalkboard. I mean, probably if you asked them, they would say, listen, I don't think the vocal's very good. And I think, frankly, any criticism of Anthony Kiedis as a singer is well taken. Like, he's not a great singer.
You don't think so?
His voice is it's just not great. I mean, you compare him to somebody like Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes, or somebody who has a truly great voice. We were just talking about Motley Crue, Vince Neil.
Yeah. Who? Okay, so this was another one of those Facebook questionnaires.
Okay.
Name a singer with a very distinct voice where if you heard it, you would know right away it was that singer.
Rod Stewart.
Rod Stewart. I don't know if I would do it, but I'm not a big fan of Rod Stewart.
All right. Chris Robinson.
Yeah. I came up with Jack White.
Jack White. Yeah, I think you could pick out Jack White right away. Eddie Vedder.
Yeah.
You could pick out Eddie Vedder right away.
Yeah.
And I think you could probably pick Anthony Kiedis out of a crowd, too. I think if you heard him, because it does have that distinctiveness. It does have that ability to set itself apart from other voices.
I think not so much maybe his voice, maybe not the tone, but the way he sings might be what it is. And Dexter Holland, I mean, that guy also, he's got a very distinctive voice, but he also hits these notes that are crazy.
And I think it's really important. I think there's a lot of people out there, and you realize this when you watch shows like The Voice, or you watch shows like American Idol. I don't even know is that still on the air? American Idol?
So. I think it is.
But you'll see a lot of singers out there who can really sing, but their voice is just not that distinctive. It's not something that you're like, oh, I know that's so and so.
I guess the voice would be good because that's in a case where you not only have to have a good voice, you have to get the person to turn around. And they have to hear something that they find to be so good that they're going to say, all right, I want to work with you.
Right. I agree with that.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to number 3 and talking about Dexter Holland.
I'm 0 for 2 so far.
You got this one. Actually, this is a really hard one. I'm going to tell you.
Go for it.
Dexter Holland is more than a genius behind a mic and the guitar. He's also brilliant in math and science. If the whole become a rock star thing didn't work, what was Dexter's backup plan? Was it A, get a PhD in music, B, get a PhD in applied mathematics, C, get a PhD in molecular biology, or D, get a PhD in astronomy?
I'm going to go with applied mathematics.
The answer is molecular biology.
Huh.
He was working towards a PhD in molecular biology.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's a smart dude. He did get his PhD eventually.
Oh, he did? He went back to school?
Yeah. Yeah, he submitted for the PhD, and I think he in California he's a professor.
See, kids, you can always go back to school later. If you want to be in a band, go be in a band.
A bonus question.
Okay.
There is a musician that did get a PhD in astronomy.
Yes, that is Brian May from Queen. And
That's
he
correct.
actually wrote a publication about astronomy. Like he was all about it. Even recently, after everything came together for him.
All right, so that concludes that. I believe you got some questions for me you wanted to ask.
So these are Rift questions.
Okay.
All right. So I had a chance to watch Rift. I came to a Live at the Dive show recently, a couple weeks ago. You guys were fantastic.
Thanks.
And I wanted to know, you've been a bass player for a long time. What was it like moving as a bass player into an established act? Did you have a hard time locking into the grooves? Did you have a hard time not necessarily dealing with the personalities, but integrating yourself? What steps did you take?
Okay, so this band already has songs that they've written.
Okay.
When I first got contacted by them, they were looking for a bass player. I listened to the music, and I said, I really like the music. And I wrote back, I'm like, I'm interested. I want to try out for the band. And they sent me a couple songs to learn. I've played in bands before, and I've tried out for bands. And typically, they'll send me the song, and I can go through and I can hear what they're doing and make up my own thing. But this is very riff-heavy music. So I went through and I'm having a really hard time knowing what they're doing. So I emailed back the guitar player, and I said, if you'll sit down with me and show me what you're doing,
Mhm.
that would help. So we had made plans to